Yeah, I mean, I had a Chase Manhattan bank robbery. Bank robberies with kidnappings are rare events. Even though the movies make it sound like it happens 5 times a day in L.A. and New York. If you made me bet, I would say there won't be one happening in the U.S. this year at all. And there may not be one that happens in the U.S. in 5 years. Because the bad guys know the police are on the way. And so they're going to get out of there. They might take hostages to get into the vault, but they know in a very short period of time, cops are going to be there, and they're smart enough not to stick around. So the bank robbery with hostages that I negotiated at the Chase Manhattan Bank, last century, they got trapped inside. NYPD, FBI showed up. We put together a combined team. The commander of the NYPD negotiators took responsibility to run the negotiations. I took the coaching, and then with my hotline experience, I just started laying empathy on them. And I had a bad guy out about 90 minutes later.
What did that person feel like they got in exchange for giving themselves up?
He got to live. Not only did he get to live, but his biggest concern was he didn't want to take a beating when he stepped out the front door. When he was satisfied that he wasn't going to get killed, his next most urgent concern was whether or not he was going to get beaten badly. And then he was concerned about how much jail time he was going to do. I was working on this guy to let a hostage go, which, as you could imagine, I should be doing, right? I'm a hostage negotiator. We got to get hostages out. One of the other members of the team, his gut instinct told him that this guy wanted out more than anything else. So I'm sitting there on the phone, I'm talking to him. People are handing me notes. And somebody hands me a note, says, ask him if he wants to come out. And in the minute, I switched from, working on getting a hostage out, and I said, you want to come out? And he says, I don't know how I do it, which is a great big giant yes, if I can give him a plan. And so now this is a 180-degree turn on the conversation. And so I start going back and forth with him, and his concern about jail time keeps coming up, and the abuse that he knows is taking place inside, which he won't say, but he's kind of alluding to being held accountable. And finally the last step, because I listened to him. I didn't argue with him. I used the same voice I knew from the hotline. And the next note I get is, tell him you'll meet him outside. And that's a face-to-face surrender. Bureau does not advise doing face-to-face surrenders. Police departments do it all the time. And now it was kind of a crazy scramble because we're like, oh, holy shit, I got to get outside. And then I didn't have any ballistic. SWAT teams got, the bank surrounded. I got no ballistic gear. They can't let me go out there to the front of the bank without ballistic gear. So, I'm buying a bulletproof helmet here and I'm buying a bulletproof vest there. And then, they get me decked out. And I get outside, and then they need me to go voice to voice with the guy. So they got a speaker with a speaker set up, and they go like, all right, so you're not going to actually go to the front door. You got to talk him out into the arms of the SWAT team. And so you got to lay out to him exactly what it's going to look like, step by step. You paint a picture of him not getting hurt. So I lay out, there's going to be 2 SWAT guys standing out there. They're not going to grab you. Come out with your hands up, move really slowly. And as soon as you step out the front door, move to the right. And there'll be a police officer named Bob. And Bob's going to start talking to you. And you move over to the right and then back into this doorway. And that's where you'll meet Bob. So okay, we're going to do this. He's getting ready to come out. Like, at the time, we got no idea how many bad guys were inside. We're being told by the other bad guy that there's 7 of them and that they're from different countries and they're all really dangerous dudes, which is not the case, but we don't know that. At point of fact, there's only 2 guys inside. But we got this first guy coming to the door. We don't know what the hell's going to happen. We don't know how his buddies are going to react. We don't know what's going to go. We just know somebody inside is going to come out. And we got to take that thread and we got to go ahead and pull it. So he comes to the front door and he can't get out because it's SWAT team's standard operating procedure to lock the door from the outside So nobody makes a run for it unexpectedly. Somebody decides to rabbit, they come out the door and they make a run for it. SWAT ain't ready for that. That's not a good thing. So they've forgotten that they locked the door. They chained the door from the outside. So then everybody's like, what do we do? What do we do? SWAT commander, everybody keeps their head. SWAT commander sends 2 guys forward behind a ballistic shield to unlock the door and only unlock the door. And they do it perfectly. And bad guy comes out and surrenders.
I've always been curious. Now, you mentioned he was afraid of doing jail time. Can they ever negotiate jail time as someone taking hostages?
You can't make those promises. You should be able to lie. I'm guessing that the FBI or the negotiators would be able to lie to the domestic terrorist.
All right. So, first of all, it's a good guess. It's wrong, but it's an understandable guess. So to your question, any agreement made under duress is not an enforceable agreement. But we wouldn't do that because it ended up being a lie. Now, what's wrong with lying? So hostage taking as a coping mechanism to survive a situation they've learned. And you don't want them to learn the police are going to lie. Threat to the hostages is always higher if there's more than one, because the bad guys figure they got at least one disposable hostage. And so you might be tempted to make a point if you've been lied to by the cops before. So that, for a bunch of other reasons why lying's a really bad idea. You would think and that actually is the first thing that when you're training negotiators, you got to teach them. Like, we're not lying. We're not. And then you give them a number of examples why it's a bad idea.
But before we get into that, let's be real here. Being an adult has its high points. You can eat ice cream for dinner. You can play video games whenever you want. You can even eat ice cream while you're playing video games. But in actuality, it's not all fun. You have to do your taxes, figure out what's for dinner every night, and of course, worst of all, schedule doctor's appointments. But at least for that one, there is our sponsor, ZocDoc, that makes adulting that much easier.
For those unaware, ZocDoc is a free app and website where you could search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the one that's the right fit for your needs, and then click to instantly book an appointment.
We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more.
You could filter for doctors who take your health insurance, are located nearby, are a good fit for any medical needs you might have, and who are highly rated by verified patients. You could also see their actual appointment openings, choose the right time for you, and then click to instantly book a visit. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You could even score same-day appointments.
Seriously, guys, I recommend you try out ZocDoc. It really does make the process of booking appointments that much easier. In fact, I know a lot of people, they get injured or they get sick and they don't even schedule appointments because they think it's more effort than what it's worth. But not with ZocDoc. They really do make it that easy.
So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/iced to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That is ZocDoc.com/iced, ZocDoc.com/iced.
Thank you, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this episode, and now let's get back to the podcast.